Good afternoon, everybody. I'm here with Sharanya on the understanding calling usage and diagnosing call failures in Microsoft Teams. So, I guess our clicker doesn't work. So if you are not here for Microsoft Teams, then you're probably in the wrong place. Or you can stick around and hear about all the cool stuff in Microsoft Teams. But our target audience is IT Pro who have already deployed the media functionalities for Microsoft Teams and looking forward to monitor and take care of our user. So with that, this is a little bit, I would like to introduce myself. So my name is Siuni. So what is a little bit about myself? So recently, just my father just passed away, and my mom and my dad live with me. So when I told my mom, hey, I have to go to Orlando for a conference, my mom says like, are you sure you're going to Orlando for a conference and not for having fun there? I said, no, Mom, I am going there for work. So I would like you guys to actually, I want to take a video and I would like to show it to my mom that it is really, I'm not leaving her behind after my dad passed away so she can be home alone, but I really, really have to go because I do work. So would you mind say like, hello, Shuni's mom, and I'm going to take a video for that. Can we do a practice once? Hello, Shuni's mom. Okay, now I'm going to take the video for it. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Thank you, guys. So that's a little bit about myself. I'm from Indonesia, Java. So as a background, I actually joined Microsoft in 1998. But I joined like SQL Server, I joined like Visual Studio. Then finally in 2005, I joined the real-time communication team and I find my passion. That's my home. I ship the first VoIP feature or product for Microsoft, and then desktop sharing, application sharing as what you have heard before, and then also the join functionality through the web. So you can actually do anonymous join and everything. So that has been like my passion up till now. I'm working in Microsoft. So what do I do outside Microsoft? So I like to be outside because in Microsoft you work inside all the time. So I do a lot of hiking and biking. So that's a little bit about myself. And with that, I would like you to meet Sharanya.
Hello, everyone. Am I audible? Okay. Yeah, because sometimes you really can't hear this, and when you start, you're usually a bunch of nerves. So I take a little second or two to kind of calm down. I'm not sure if the clicker works, but yeah. So my name is Sharanya. I work with the IT Pro team. I work as a program manager in the IT Pro team. A little bit about myself. Been about 12 years in Microsoft since 2006. The last 2 years have been with Office 365 and Microsoft Teams. Before that, I was working with consulting. I was working as part of the Microsoft consulting group in services. Had a great opportunity to interact with a bunch of customers. That was what made me to say, hey, can we just go back and do something different, actually make a real mark. So in my current role, one of my charter is to make sure that IT pros have data that matters and insights that they can act upon, right? If I have to sum this up really simply, right? So we do, as part of our telemetry, we do collect a huge ton of data. We use that to better our products, but we also want to make sure that we are taking that data and giving that back to you in some form or shape where you can make sense out of it, where you can better people's experience. That said, I come from Hyderabad, which is a city in South India, almost 400+ years old. Other than that, in my time off, I like to make pots, the clay ones, of course. I make that's the Indian art form called terracotta. That's what I like to do. And other than that, I like riding my bicycle in the mountains, riding my motorcycle in the mountains. Bicycle would be really tough, though. But that's what I do in my spare time. So with that, let me just go ahead and talk about today's session, right? So at the heart of Microsoft Teams, it boils down to the fact that this is a great communication and collaboration tool, right? So at the heart of it, the whole concept of meetings and calls becomes that much more important. And if you want your end users to actually start using Teams and getting benefit out of it, you want to make sure that the call quality experience is good, right? So if there are three things that we want you to take away from this session, the first one being we've got a tool set. We get this. We get this is not easy. The whole media network is not a very easy subject. It's complex, but we want to make sure we are doing our best to make your life easier and give you as many tool sets as possible, right? Both the reactive ones and the proactive ones. We want to make sure you have the right resources to better the experience. One of the other things that we've heard is where do we actually see the call usage data? Right now, we do have, again, we'll walk through that in a little more detail. We also want you to give you an understanding of where can you see your call usage and data. And of course, my colleague Suni will definitely talk about how many of you here have heard of CQD? That's a great, I'm sure you'll take a lot away from what Suni is going to show in terms of what's CQD, what's new in CQD. There's a whole ton of changes that came through CQD. So these are the three things that we want you to take away from today's session. So the first topic, or if I have to go by what happens when you actually start a deployment, right? You've rolled out the deployment, you have people starting to use it. As an IT admin, you want to first figure out, okay, are people really using this? Is that where I start spending my time and energies on? Where do I really go and check call usage? So at this point of time, for checking call usage, we do have a couple of places while this is at different places. Our intent is to make sure that we are making all the investments to get all this data in a very insightful form to you. So the call usage can be seen in the M365 Admin Center. You have a section called usage activity or usage reporting, right? So that's where you can see a Teams view of, okay, what are your users, where are your users spending time on? It's given a specific time range. It could be 7, 30, 90, or 180 days. What are the number of calls a user made, right? How many calls did a user make? How many chat messages and channel messages they've taken part in? How many meetings they've been part of? So these are some of the data that you can get straight off the usage report. So that's currently what we have, but we're making a lot of investments, and we are spending a lot of time on ensuring that we get these insights as part of your new admin portal. So we do have, how many of you have seen the new Microsoft Teams and Skype for Business Admin Center? Okay, that's a lot of you, and for the sake of brevity, I'll call it the new Admin Center for the rest of this session. Because what I'm going to show you as part of call analytics is in the new admin center. So other than this, you continue to have PSTN usage reports and details. PSTN usage reports continue to exist in the link admin center. We want to make sure we bring those over, start giving you different dimensions in terms of how people have made calls as part of Teams, as part of Skype. So these are some of the things that we want to do. And but however, at this point of time, these are some of the areas where you can go and get usage reports. In addition to this, one specific thing that I want to call out is the Adoption Content Pack. Adoption Content Pack, again, is a great resource. You can pull data out. Think about this as the intermediate stage between the data, the APIs that we want to provide plus, the canned reports that we have. Content Pack is a great resource, specifically when you want to pull data out, start slicing, dicing that with the other good information that you have in AAD. It's a great tool, and it just not only gives you information about calls or how a product is being used, but it gives you an overall view of how's O365 being used or M365 being used across your organization. Personally, it's a great tool. I mean, I've seen a lot of customers use it, get great value out of that. Again, the last one is call analytics. Call analytics, though, gives you a list of individual calls. It's more of a troubleshooting. But yes, if you want to pick up and then figure out how many calls are being made, we want to build an export and other reporting capabilities as part of that. But that's one other area where you can look to get call usage. So this, at a high level, this is where once you've, let's say, deployed Teams and you want to start monitoring usage, this is where you would start. And after you start monitoring, then the next part that comes is, how do you, okay, people started using this, right? How do I really diagnose call failures? There are two ways to do this. Again, common sense, you have the proactive way and the reactive way. But let me tell you a little bit about proactive way. We do have some tools like, Microsoft does offer a lot of guidance in terms of My Advisor, some things that you've already seen, be it Network Planner. When you are undertaking something as huge as a media stack deployment, we want to make sure you have all the right guidance and advices. So while we start doing that and while you start rolling out these experiences, there's also a lot of things that happen. Your network is not a constant thing. It constantly keeps evolving. It's not like I planned for my network and that's about it, it's done. A new firewall router or anything can upset the apple cart in terms of your media, your media experience, right? So while you're doing that proactively, there's also the aspect of continuous improvement. Because your network is not written on stone, it's a constant evolving thing. We want to make sure we are surfacing the right signals, right? Again, I'm not going to steal Suni's thunder, but let's say if you want to make sure you've installed a new subnet and you want to make sure that communicates to the endpoints, right? So these are some of the things that we want to surface early on. We want to give you the tool set so you know exactly where things are breaking or where things are going wrong. That said, while you do all this good stuff, you're prepared, there's always this things that crack by. You can't plan for everything, and things are bound to be reactive. So when it comes to reactive, I'll start with a little persona here. William, I wanted to take the name William because William is one of the program managers who worked on the or continues to work on the data API piece of it. William is not usually an angry guy, but for the sake of this scenario, let's assume that he's got off a Teams meeting, which is not really good, and he's having trouble with that. And this has been happening pretty periodically to him. And the first thing that he wants to do is he wants to understand what's going wrong. And then anytime we see that a user's having an issue, the first thing they do is to make sure they call up the help desk, right? And then when they call up the help desk, William doesn't want, specifically because it's calling and meeting experiences, William really doesn't want to get off the call, raise a ticket, and then probably come back after 2 days or 3 days and want to know what's happening. His work is not stopping. And we as IT pros have a great deal of responsibility to make sure that William's having a great experience. So to ensure that, what we do is we need to make sure we are empowering the help desk and we give them the information that's on their fingertips so that William can get the necessary troubleshooting steps, or William can get the necessary input so that that very day his call can be useful, right? That's something that we want to make sure. It could be a headset, it could be probably his network, or he needs some advice where we want to make sure that he is actually having your help desk has all the necessary information to make his experience worthwhile that day. So that's where I want to take a pause and say, okay, this is where we start introducing call analytics, right? So call analytics is a tool that you can use call analytics was in preview state last time when we announced that in Ignite. Now it's generally available as part of the new admin center, which we refer, and it's deeply integrated. So what does call analytics have? And what kind of data do we really, what is the data that we look at? And just want to dive a little more into what can call analytics do for you? So it's, like I said, it's integrated right now as part of your call history in the admin center. You don't have to go through a separate tool, which was the case, separate tool or URL, which was the case last year. And it's now generally available. And we made a lot of improvements to make sure we collect all the data and present it in a form which is useful for your help desk personnel. So you have the ability to search for a user's calls or meetings. And again, one of the things I specifically want to call out while you're on the journey is this tool is not for Teams alone. This tool is for Teams as well as Skype for Business. So when I say a user's calls or meetings, I'm not just restricting for Teams here. You get all the data here. Any, be it Skype or be it Teams, you get that particular data. So the last 30 days of calls and meetings for every user are stored, and you get pretty much it's near real time. It's not like a 24-hour latency or 48-hour latency. You get the data like almost within 15 minutes, right? While we take 15 minutes, I've seen that, on my call analytics, when I want to go back and check if something went wrong, sometimes I see that in about 5 to 7 minutes. And the underlying data that we collect and that we present here, it's all the same metrics that CQD uses. So all the media telemetry that we collect, we are going to base decisions on that. So audio streams, again, are classified as poor, and we will talk about that more in the next slide. But what I want to spend time here is to slightly break this down on how can your help desk actually use this, right? So when you think about a call, think about this from an angle that, it can fail at multiple points, right? So right from the device that you use, it could be your inbuilt speakers, inbuilt headphones, or a puck or a separate headset that you're using, to the device itself, right? Sometimes you do have with the device itself, and then the next point is from the device, the kind of connection you're having. And then from there, you have the network, which just goes all over the place. So we've seen in the past that when it comes to devices, right, so there are certain devices which might not really work well, and sometimes we end up using default devices or default headphones and speakers. Again, it's a rare possibility, but based on the make, sometimes you might have them placed right next to each other, which could cause a little bit of issue, and there are devices which probably do have a little bit of history in terms of not being the most optimal ones, right? So we want to make sure we are capturing all the data for devices, and we are able to clearly call out where the issue is. Did it happen because of a poor device? Did it happen because of a network? So the second thing that we have is the system. Again, in case of Skype for Business, some of the old clients are known to cause call center failures, right? So while that's a rarity and people would have moved on and you have a great upgrade story in place, there are also there is also the aspect of somebody just having an extremely old client, or a driver which is known not to work well, right? So that's the information. Again, we classify that data as well. And the third one, which is on the connection, right? So we build great software, but sometimes you don't really expect it to perform if you're actually taking a call on a 2G connection in a moving car. That's more often than not a recipe for failure. While we are doing our best to make investments that you have great calling experience everywhere, these are some of the things that might not really work well, right? And you could also have an access point. One of the data points that we also collect is the wireless signal strength, right? So you could have a faulty router. You could have a faulty router. You're thinking I'm sitting right under the access point, but something is not working well, right? So you could have a faulty router. You could have a signal strength which is not really working well. That's the data we capture again from a connection perspective. While all this is fine, if let's say William is actually having this experience on a wired network within your organization, then it's a different. He expects a different. He does expect a different this thing altogether. So we collect a lot of information on the network as well. From you to the service, from the user to the service back to the user. If it's a conference call, and in case if it's a peer-to-peer call, what are the different streams and what are the different data that we have. We collect all that information, and we make sure we have, we present that in a way which is consumable. So while this is the data piece of it, then what I'm saying is we do classify the calls, right? And for the call classification, typically, at a high level, there are 3 categories. You have the good calls where everything is good. So for the sake of this discussion at this point of time, we won't spend a lot of time on good calls. And there's this poor calls. And so your call could be classified as poor based on certain rules or thresholds that we have. Towards the end of the presentation, once we upload this, there's actually a useful link where you can say, hey, what actually tells me, a call is, right? In this case, I've taken the screenshot or an example of, let's say, you got 100% packet loss, right? That's a clear disaster. I mean, your packets are just not going through, right? It could be a blocked firewall, or it could be, something happening on the network layer, right? So your packet loss is one thing, and then you have jitter. If your jitter is greater than a particular parameter, you're experiencing jitter. That's another thing, that's another parameter we look at and then say, hey, that's causing a bad call. And sometimes your call will just not go through. It's just not setting up again. One of the reasons that this could happen is that your call, your service is not reaching the endpoint, right? So your call setup failure happens. So that's again, it's while we call it poor, it's not optimal. And then the other thing is also around device not functioning. Sometimes you get echo or something. We capture those devices too. So while we have data collected in components, different components, we also make sure that when somebody is looking at that particular screen, when a user called, they get to see why a call is poor or good, right? So, and then we do our classification, and more often than not, we also end up seeing unknown, right? In this case, the client crashed, or the call terminated, there's a call drop. So before the data could actually come in, we couldn't get the data. So that's where we classify that as unknown. We do have, in the demo, I'll show you, when we go to the demo, we do have, little signal saying that, hey, this call does not have all the data, but to the best of our ability, we found this data that exists here. And based on this call can either be classified or poor or unknown, right? So subnet mapping. And while you have, just taking that from the flow, while we have a ton of data that we have captured, and we are doing a little bit of work in terms of the analytical work of actually classifying that as poor or rich, we want to make sure that we are actually leveraging what we already have for CQD. So how many of you are actually familiar with the subnet mapping and have done that? That's great. So subnet mapping, you don't have to do anything specifically different here. We use the same subnet mapping that you do it for CQD. We take the same TSP files, and then you see a different user page and call page. In this particular case, while William's AD location is Lincoln Square 13074, at this point of time when he had probably a bad call, he was probably in that 3032 cafeteria, right? So that also differs. And we are, again, when you look at that, that's when the help desk can actually go back. Again, this is what CUNY will cover. Now we've kind of made the path all the way from there. There's no, zoom in, zoom out. We're trying to give you the complete picture right now. So at this point of time, the help desk or the users will actually have the information that, or they can go back and give the information that somebody reported an issue in this particular subnet. Is it isolated to William alone because of his issue, because of his device or anything on the client, or is that more widespread, right? Is this something actually to do with the subnet and the parameters there? So that's some of the information that you will be able to see with the tools that we are giving. But the advantage with the subnet mapping, one that specifically wanted to call out, was that your call page will know exactly where the user is making the call out from, right? And that's an advantage if you have the subnet mapping in place. The little blue bar that you see under, it's not a design or something, it's PII. We kind of block that out. And specifically when we speak about PII, this is where I wanted to use this as a segue for the next slide. The amount of information you can imagine, who's calling whom, who spent what kind of time with whom, right? And then, and the people who have access to this data can actually see who's talking to whom, and the last 30 days, you get pretty much every kind of details, right? You want to make sure that you are restricting this access to the right folks. So as of today, AAD has four team-specific roles, which is the first is the team's service administrator. Think about this as pretty much the team's global administrator who can manage everything to do with Teams, right? So while that's at a higher level, that's one of the roles that's currently available. Then you have the communications administrator. So communications administrator is the one who could set up policies for meetings, calls, and all that stuff. And the other two roles, in the previous, if you've used CA in the preview mode, anybody used CA in the preview mode before this came up? Again, you would have known about the tier 1 and tier 2 group setup, right? So when you look at the tier 1 and tier 2 group setup, when you take a help desk, you have essentially two personas there. One is a support specialist who picks up your call, takes the information, can do the basic troubleshooting, right? And if there is more that needs to be done, then it goes to the tier 2 specialist. So think about the support engineer as a tier 2 specialist who's much more technical. We want to make sure that engineer has access to all the details in terms of whatever data that we are providing. And the support specialist has access to the basic call analytics tools, right? And that time, some of the data is obfuscated there. They don't see the exact names and they don't have all the details. So that's another persona that you can set up the roles for. So these things, you don't have to set up groups. You don't have to set up anything specific. These groups are straight away available out of the box for you right now. So while we have these permissions that we can use, I want to make sure that we spoke about the data, we spoke about the different components, we have all those things in place. I'd really like to show a quick demo of how this currently works, and then we can take any questions probably towards the end of the session. While I do the demo, let me just quickly switch this. That's what happens when you try to keep things ready. But let me try this again. Awesome. So a few more clicks. I go to the main admin center. And from here, I go to the new admin center, which is the Teams and Skype, or the new admin center, or new admin center for Microsoft Teams and Skype for Business. So this is, I'm sure you would have seen some of the sessions on the admin center already. Otherwise, again, we do have a slide at the end of the session. If you've missed the session before, this is pretty much the last session. I know I can't actually ask you to go to another session, but there is links on, my colleagues, whoever did those sessions, we do have the links. You can pick up the recordings. There's a lot of investments that we did in this area, specifically around what used to be just a fly-in, in terms of what you can set for users. You can do a lot more on Modern Portal today. You can do a lot more on the new admin center, specifically setting policies, guest access, messaging policies, how do you want to set up teams. There's a lot of good stuff in here. I would sincerely recommend you to attend those sessions if this interface or this looks new to you. So as I was mentioning, call analytics is now deeply integrated as part of your admin center, so we don't have a separate this thing. So here I'll try and go and find a particular user who might or might not have had bad calls. This is typically the user card that you see. And of course, the policies, the different information that you have. And specifically, you also have these widgets on 7-day quality and what are the activities. If something happened in the last 7 days, how was the overall quality look like? You get all those at a glance. So let's go here and click on the call history tab. Once you click on the call history tab, you see that Ruchir was part of 3 calls. And this gets displayed to you in a table, and you know what activity this is. And if a different client was used, you can know if that's a SFB or a Microsoft Teams client that was used for that particular call. You know when that call happened, and you know how many participants are there. So while you have this, let's just quickly pick up a not so good call and see what went wrong there. You could see this is what I was talking about, where you have this alert saying that, hey, we couldn't capture all the data, but something is off here, but the call was poor. So, Christian, one of our other colleagues, while he was on the call, he had not so great experience. So let me click on this one. Let me click on this one and see what exactly does it say. So this is what your help desk person is right now doing when William's on the call, or let's say in this case, Ruchi is on the call. So you look at this, that information is right now available for you. So this was not a good call because Christian's having issues in terms of the network. So you look at this and say, at a glance, immediately you can see this and say, I can see the average round trip is almost 775 milliseconds, right? So something is definitely off with the network. That information I can get straight away. But let's say if I just want to, do a little more into the advanced details and figure out, okay, what happened in the network. There you could see that, we've actually color-coded that. So you kind of trying to make things simpler because we understand that we are putting a lot of data out there. We want to make sure your vision just goes straight where that is, right? Where there's an issue in terms of this is, the round trip is way greater than what it's supposed to be. Almost 775 milliseconds, that's not a good experience. So now your user has a clear idea that, hey, somebody had a bad network, and that's the reason why you had to do this. Let's quickly look at another call while we are here. And this time we'll look at a different user, so that let's look at Heidi's calls and see what we have here. So Heidi had been in a lot of calls. She's been pretty busy at the Ignite, so let me check one of the other calls. And again, the advantage with the new interface is you get to see, you can choose the columns, you can slice and dice in terms of what do you want to show here. And again, what you see is what you get. So you can either filter based on what is the activity type. If there are specific client issues, you can do that. But again, that's based on the data. And just to this is what you get with every table or every data display. And we want to make sure we are modeling this across. So there is no learning when you move from one area to the other. If you're used to doing a certain way, you're used to doing things in a certain way, you continue to do that. So let's look at one of the calls here, and I can sort by audio quality. And let me take this conference where there is 4 people, right? And I see again, Christian's probably the contributor here again. So let me click and check what exactly happened here. And this is an example where you see that the poor call quality was caused by an audio device, right? So the first example that we see was about network, and this is about the audio device that we have. So once you look at the audio device, you see this, you go to advanced, here you can see this right away, right? So the capture not functioning event ratio is 0.961. Again, these are the metrics that the underlying CQD uses. So we use the same metrics. While it sounds very, capture not functioning, it's essentially capture not functioning event ratio is when the service, what is the ratio that the service could not hear the capture, this thing here, which means that to kind of keep it simple, almost 9 out of 10 times your service really couldn't hear what Christian was saying, right? So which means there is a fundamental issue with the audio device. So that's one example for audio device. So this is, at a high level, what you can do in terms of, the call analytics, specifically if you want to start troubleshooting calls. And then, of course, we do have, this is your quick and easy reactive way of how do you do the call analytics. Let me just switch this back to 5. And that's over to Suni now.
Hello, it's me again. So I hope you are excited about all the new things that Saranya has shown to all of you. So I would like to mention upfront, English is not my first language. So I actually created some cheat sheet over there just to make sure that I'm saying the right thing, that I prepare. When I'm nervous, I have a tendency to have everything in my first mother language. And that's not what you want, because you don't want me to present in Indonesian, unless there's Indonesian here, right? So, Saranya has said here that help desk will probably get a call and there's a user having a problem, right? Oh, I have a bad call or I have a bad meeting. And in general, I find it very difficult that it's only one user problem. It's an indicator that's a systemic issue. There's a greater problem. I don't know whether it's a router is down, whether somebody changed the configuration, whether a new firmware for a certain kind of device has been downloaded and it's being installed that's affecting something. Especially if it's suddenly the trend was good and then suddenly there's a spike. And then suddenly today you get a lot of support call. So, what is the tool that gives you the ability to see the trend? And that is CQD, the Call Quality Dashboard. And I'm so excited to talk about this today. And first, I would like to talk about the overview for some of you who has used it, or first-time user who hasn't used it ever before. So I will just go through it really quickly about the tool, the data model itself. And then after that, I would like to share the improvement that we have made this year and the improvement for the future, the roadmap. So I hope all these things that we are planning to do in the future will excite you, okay? So here it is. So CQD, as an overview here, I put it in as it helps you answer the systemic question. Yeah. Well, I just mentioned about that. About the quality and reliability. It answers the question of which of my branch office are having network issue and how do they compare to the main office. So CQD basically convert the call record into a trending and an actionable insight via data model and data access tool. So the raw data, I would like to mention here, raw data can be extremely hard to consume. If you're looking too deep, you can miss the trend of information. But if you look broadly enough, then you actually might miss some important, significant signals. So CQD offers IT admin the ability to slice the data however you would like to wish to certain performance of the CQD itself, which is like right now we are updating the data within 24 hours. But wait for the new roadmap that will be taken care of very soon. So customers have been using CQD to get the trend of information of the network quality, other various locations, their Wi-Fi, health, end user rating, so for years. So let's look at CQD more deeply. Oh, I forgot this clicker doesn't work. So the key concept of CQD is dimension, measures, and filter. So in here, I will say something that's very earful. So it is based on pivot table technology where dimension offer a way for the IT admin to slice the data. Measures summarize metrics via counts, rates, and filters on dimension allow drilling deeper to a particular slice of the data. So that's what it is. So for example, show me number of poor calls by building for the past month. This is the example that I put it in this slide. So almost any measures, dimension, and filter can be placed in this structure, and this query will yield any interesting result. So we give you the tool to give you the ability to slice and dice and figure out what is the problem within your environment. Be your own Sherlock Holmes. That's what I said. So for example here, if you are looking at the average acoustic echo leakage metric by user location, you will either see that the average acoustic echo leakage value are same everywhere, and you cannot really draw a conclusion there, right? So the location generally affects network quality, but not device quality. On the other hand though, if the average acoustic echo is different by location, it most likely due to the device procurement or deployment bias. So echo leak value compared to user in another location can be different too. So there are much better slicers to use with echo leakage metrics, such as device, mix, and model. So that's an example about this. So the next slide here, it's giving a preview about what have we done in the past and what we have done now, like 2018. So as you already know, CQD is based on single page dashboard, or SPD. So it provides you the trend, and single page dashboard give you canned reports. And we know you love to build your own report. So the detailed customizable report is being given to you guys, so you guys can edit, you can create, and create as many reports as you want. So the next improvement that we do, so those are like based on our timeline, by the way. So we integrate the tenant subnet, the location base that Saranya mentioned, and earlier I talked about the dimension and measures. Look at the number, it keep on increasing, the dimension and the measure. And why? Let me go to the next. Oh, I forgot. I keep on forgetting that the clicker doesn't work. Because since 2018, we have Microsoft Teams data now in CQD. To make sure that we contain your data properly per region, we have each location, each region deploy separate CQD. So we have a CQD in OAM, we have CQD in EMEA and APAC as well. Not only that, we actually support report reader role. That has been like something that people has been coming to me and say like, hey, we don't want to give somebody a tenant admin role to look at your report. So the report reader role is an O365 report reader. So if you once give it to that person, a report reader role, that person can sign in, can edit the report, and whether it's a Skype for Business, whether it's Teams, whether it's Exchange report, that particular person or user is capable of doing that. And as of 2018, we actually include quality of experience report natively. How many of you have used or have heard about QER? Do you like them? It's great. Yes, it's actually great, especially for customers who never touched CQD before. They get to CQD, they were like, oh, this is hard. We don't know like where to start. So QER report is a good starting point, and we give you the 80 pages, maybe 80, maybe 70 canned report for you to get started and working on it. And why I'm so excited about it, it's because we also provide a new navigation system. So the QER itself, when you guys in the past, you have to go to a place, you download all this QER template, right? And you have to go through all the report one by one. But here, you can actually click in the area that you want. And it is actually already being created in a tree form that makes sense for the user. So quality, audio reliability, conferencing, P2P. And we have also the breakdown of PSTN calling and meeting room. And we also provide the client and device at the bottom. So if you haven't checked it out, check it out. It's available starting on August, natively in CQD. So you can just look it up at the drop-down menu and go to your QER. So from QER, you also so I forgot to mention one thing earlier, that CQD has Teams and SFDO data. So if you don't select at the top, it will be an overall. But if you pick one over the other, you can actually take a look at the data of SFDO, and you can take a look at the data of Teams. Why is it important? Because you sometimes wonder, like, oh, why there's a high peak of PCR? If it's affecting SFB and Teams, it might not be, it might be something that's affecting both of them. It can be like, oh, the new device driver update that just recently got downloaded and installed by everybody because it's affecting everybody. Or something that's like affecting the network, the new ISP that we just changed. So now I'm showing the slide about the evolution of CQD. So how many of you have used CQD in on-prem? Okay. Do you like the CQD on-prem? Oh, okay. So I love CQD on-prem because the latency is quick and the PII data is there. So I can actually go zoom in and zoom out really to find out the problem. So if I'm a help desk, I can figure out whether this is a problem of 5 users, 10,000 users, 500 users, or on the other side. If I actually, from one user, I can see whether this will be like an indication of the other side, the trend, the systemic issue that I mentioned earlier. So looking into this, CQD on-prem had low latency, and when the time of the QE data is coming. So PIA data is always available because the servers were all within the secure boundaries. So what you have seen in online is actually cqd.link.com. Because of the way that our CQD in the cloud was built, we have a constraint on how the data arrived. So we have those latency of 24 hours. And because of the way that like online compliance about the data and GDPR, there is, we make a decision not to include the PIA data inside the CQD. And you know, like we have to delete all the data within 30 days. The differences between CQD on-prem and CQD online, the middle part is we start having the reliability data, not just the QE data. And the future roadmap, the interesting part that I would like to share with you is we are going to have lower latency, so closer to 30 minutes, and PII data is back. And we have quality and reliability update, including Teams. We have SFB, SFDO, and Teams. Well, you actually probably already can see we have some of the on-prem federated calling available already. But with the SFB on-prem connector, you will get both. So see how excited it is? So now, not only that, we are aware you guys want to customize all this report. You like to be a geek. Me too. So we are going to provide a Power BI connector. So CQD to Power BI connector. And maybe more. So come and talk to me about your ideas. So here is basically the more detail of what's in CQD roadmap. Up to 12 months historic data. I almost forgot about that. And the drill down include full IP address, MAC address, PSS ID. So all this interesting. Dynamic date ranges, drill down capability. Oh, it's a very long list, but I hope this actually makes you happy. Those claps will make my dev very happy, by the way, because they work really hard. We just enabled a couple of our top customers on this near real-time CQD. And so this is not a pretend. It's not just I go to PowerPoint and create something. It's a screen capture of our near real-time data. So you can actually, as you know, in CQD, you can pick the month, and then in here, you can pick the day of the month, and then you can see the hours. And at this time, it's based on the UTC. So we just said, PII is back. So user UPN, email, full IP address, endpoint name, MAC addresses, Wi-Fi, BSS ID is going to be in CQD Online. Why? You know why. Because when you are troubleshooting, you need those information. I see the head shaking, agreeing. That's true. When you are like troubleshooting, you want to drill down up to the call ID dimension as well. There is that it will be available for you. And the PII data is only available for 30 days. So if you need to troubleshoot, you better troubleshoot really quickly or the data is gone. So you can only pull up to a limited number of calls when you include PII field. That means that the PII data is really optimized for help desk scenario as well in here. To see like, oh, if there is a trend, but you can see all the people, like in this case, right, the date, and then I was using the second user agent OC. If you don't know like what OC is, I'm surprised. So those are like our old client of Link system. So you can actually take a look. Now you can drill down to the building and the user which get affected by the spike of the PCR. So how cool is that? Thank you. Huh? When is it going to be available? We'll talk about that later. Let me finish this one. So the drill down capability. There is nothing about troubleshooting that hinders us to go troubleshoot faster without the capability of drill down. So here, what we are going to empower you again is in the detailed reports, we give you the ability to drill down. So you can, because no amount of guessing will be enough for us. So would you like to drill down based on building? Or would you like to drill down on dates? We don't want to confine you. So we will actually provide you with some sample, again, like a CAN report. But then after that, you're welcome to do your own drill down. So in this case, you can navigate over there and then do a drill down based on streams by date to date. And then you can pick, oh, I would like to drill down based on video filter. So you create a drill down based on by video. And then you can select again by the date. So later on this, and then you can save it. So when you actually have that particular detailed report, you can actually do the drill down. wait until I show you the demo. I will actually go through it. So, the last but not least, this is it. We are going to allow you to customize your CQD report using Power BI. You can, oh, look, thank you. Because, again, no matter how we are working so hard to please you, you guys want a different color, different type of charting, put it on the right side, put it on the left. I can't keep up with those. So go for it. We will provide the connector. You guys can do it. And by the way, this is real. This is based on the real data, and then you can click on the month, year, and then you can see the sum of the count. So this is July 2018, and you have this many streams. So you can actually, after this, you can click on that particular month. So with that, I would like to do a demo. Okay, so this is the first demo that I was trying to show. So this is already available, so you can take a look based on the link itself, cqd.link.com. The SPD includes this particular QER data. So this is MSIT data. So what happened in MSIT and for audio quality, for audio reliability. So you can just really quickly click. I hope my demo machine works. Okay. So you can see at the conference level, you can take a look at the poor audio stream. There's building over there. There's network information. And you can click on the two-party. Something is not happy here. I might not give enough offering to demo God. So anyway, but you guys have this actually natively in your CQD online. So go try to check it out and give us feedback. This is in SPD though, so it's not editable. So if you would like to make it editable and you want to create a different one, then you have to go to detailed report again. This is just a starter for something for you to open up on your imagination. So the next one that I would like to show, this is our near real-time report. So don't yell at me yet because like, oh, that's not the report I want. Well, we just basically just to show you here that we have it by minutes, by hour, by date, and it is currently available as well. And this is just for our testing purposes to make sure that the data come on time. So we have at the top here as September, and in here you can pick the data of the date and then the hour of when the data is arrived. So far it's pretty good, except I don't know like if my demo God is kind enough to me or not. But I'm going to skip to the next demo here, which is the drill down with the PIA. So earlier I was talking about you can create the drill down through the detailed report yourself. And in here, just make believe that I already did that, create the detailed report, and I have the report, CQD report in here. Earlier it was just date and the number of calls, and earlier I saw the high PCR spike. So based on that, I would like to take a look. Hey, on September 10, why is it spiked? So this is the drill down. Sorry, it's a little bit slow, but it pick up now based on the user agent category. So we talked about OC earlier. You can see that it has a high failure on the OC client itself. And to show you how the drill down works, it's basically adding the date and the user agent that I created over there. Then it will show who are the users who get impacted and where they are. So with that, I'm concluding my demo. And there are 4 new CQD key takeaways that I would like to send you with. Low latency, new data model of PII with drill down capabilities, with updated Teams quality and reliability classification, same tools, Teams, SFB online, and also SFB on-prem. We are also working on trying to provide a support for flexibility to customize your report. And the scenario that we would like to be able to support with this new functionalities is for you to be able to identify who are the impacted users, so you can actually drill down from the trend that we show in CQD. But on the other hand, based on like one call that failure, you can see if it's a massive systemic issue that's happening within your organization. So with that, I would like to open up for questioning, and thank you so much. And before you leave, please provide your eval, okay? Thank you so much. Yes.
Hello. What I'm missing is the connection. The call quality dashboard is okay, also for the overview, and also the drill down. But I miss the connection to the user experience rating, which every user is asked at the end of a call, to this objective.
The rating, you mean?
Yes.
We actually have the rating information as well.
Yes, but never how it is displayed in the figures.
How? What do you mean configure?
You have the amount of calls, good, poor, or bad, based on objective information.
Mm-hmm. So the user...
But I don't see the information how the user rates with quality.
How do the user rating quality depends on when you have those 5-star at the end of the call, you get...
Yes.
Yes. Whether it's 5 or 4 or 2.
Yes,
right.
And this information, additional to the objective information, is very good for analyzers, because perhaps objective is everything okay, but the user say it's worse. And when it's also very important to analyze why the user has such a bad experience.
Correct. So right now there are 2 ways to do that, right? So if you happen to know who's that user, the name of the user, you can actually use call analytics and then check like the person's information, and probably as an IT admin, you can connect with them. In MSIT, we do that. But in those trend data of we can see like how many is giving 5-star, 4-star, 3. If you pick the 1-star, right now with the PII data, you can see who are those unhappy users.
Okay.
Then you can actually reach out to them. In Microsoft itself, we actually do reach out to that particular person. Hey, you give us 1-star. Why is that? And say like for that particular person, give us 1-star for consecutively for 5 days, or how many. It can be because of it's consecutive, or it can be like the numbers, like 100 times. So you can actually reach out and then ask for their direct feedback. Because sometimes those, you're right, the metric itself looks probably good, but it might be, the reason is, like one thing that it happens with our customer, our end user in New York, is because it's not because of his device. He has one of the best NPCR, but it's because of other people who join the meeting.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's, you can take a look that particular user experience that day that he rated, and you can take a look at the conference as well, and then who are over there, and then take a look like who actually contribute to the poor experience.
Okay.
We can chat some more if that doesn't answer the questions. Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't know that there are 2 mics. There are 4. Okay.
You mentioned that you would share with us when the new CQD is ready for us to use. I didn't hear that.
Oh, okay. So you want to know the roadmap. So hopefully soon. So here is the path that... What is soon? It's not going to be next 10 years. So here is like the things that how the CQD, new CQD is rolled out. First, we enable it for Teams, and then we add SFBO data. And then we enable it for NOAM first region. So if you are in EMEA, that will be a little bit later. And then we enable it for for the world. And then we have the on-prem. So, I actually skipped, sorry, roll back. NOAM, and then we enable PII first. After we enable PII, then we enable for other region. That's how we try to make sure. So depending on like how the gotcha that we got as we roll out, I really couldn't say when. But trust me, like right now, as it is right now, we already have 25 customers in TAP. 3 is actively using the NRT. So it's coming soon. Before you know it, it will be your 2019 presence. Hopefully as soon as Q1 or Q2.
Just a couple questions about some of the metrics and stuff like that. I love how you've got it's okay and poor. It would be great to see kind of a yellow range in there, because maybe they have 3 or 4 things going on.
Yeah.
And then being able to give that to our service desk people saying, hey, they've got 4 things going on.
Right.
Just because if they say I have a poor call, well, there's 4 little things that are wrong that doesn't look bad. And
Right. So just as an example, you probably saw 1 red, but there is a red, yellow, everything.
I haven't seen yellow yet before in QD, so if there's yellow, that's great.
Yeah, there is.
The other thing that I would look for with the 30-minute time, is there going to be any like alerting functionality? So let's say if a whole bunch of calls start coming back as poor, we can alert our service desk immediately and say, hey, there's a problem.
Yeah, so while we are laying out the plumbing and framework, right? I mean, just making sure that, CQD also has PII information. We do have this. So one of the investments that we're making sure is that, as I, spoke about it, right? We want to make that insights where, somebody gets a call, you would want to know in that around region if something is going to happen, right? You want to make sure you have the right logistics in place, or you want to be proactive and say, hey, something is off here. You're better off doing PSTN calls, right? So we are currently, it's actively on our backlog where we're trying to surface those insights. Yeah, that's one of the major asks. We've heard that loud and clear, and that's part of the roadmap, for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, just to be sure I'm reading this slide correctly, you're committing to porting these new features to the on-prem CQD?
Could you repeat one more time?
Yeah, just to be sure I'm reading this slide correctly, you're committing to porting these new feature sets in CQD also to on-prem CQD?
So CQD on-prem is already, CQD on-prem already have the low latency. they are actually get refreshed every 15 minutes.
Yes, but on-prem CQD is not seen an update in any other form in probably at least 2.5 years.
Right, but we are talking about 2019 on-prem.
So we can use 2019 on-prem with the existing CQD on-prem. You're not bringing the new CQD features, reports and things, Power BI, to on-prem.
No. What I'm saying in here is CQD is going to be able, CQD on-prem will be able to pull the data to the online and take advantage of all the online reporting and capability that we talked earlier.
Okay. Then the follow-up question would be, when will that new functionality be available in the GCC High and other sovereign government clouds?
I see. Okay, that part so let me actually get into a little bit more detail. So GCC High is actually, and GCC High and GCC, the DoD.
DoD, the level
higher,
5, yes.
Yeah, environment is actually based on the new real-time data pipeline already. However, they have different ingestion, or it's still based on our previous technology on the SAS cube. So it still has a little bit limitation, so it doesn't have, that CQD doesn't have PII data. So that's what's going to happen in GCC. However, the one maybe in the future, we are going to update the GCC High with the CQD with the PII data, but we don't have that in our roadmap yet. As far as I know, we're just trying to complete the GCC High deployment as soon as possible.
Okay,
so
thank you.
we're not trying to add new features yet. Yes.
Hi. I notice in the call analytics a significant amount of...
Don't forget to fill up your eval. Okay.
In the call analytics, I notice a significant amount of unknown. And I seem to see a correlation between the unknown calls and poor quality. Do you see that? I noticed that it's a failed upload can be one possibility. Should I treat those unknown events as poor quality?
Not necessarily. I mean, let's split that into two things, right? One is the, yes, unknown in the sense that we didn't get a lot of data, but that could happen because of multiple reasons, right? So, you know, the causation and the correlation aspect of it. To your point, if you're seeing a lot of unknowns, we would definitely, you know, probably after this, I can follow up and say, hey, which particular tenant is this, and, you know, do a little bit of, you know, background on why that is happening. But to your point, are a lot of unknowns equivalent to poor calls? I wouldn't go that unless until I see the data. But I think first and foremost, we'll try and get to see why you're getting unknowns. Is that because, is there some configuration which is blocking the data to come through, right? So that's one thing we want to, you know, do that.
Just what percentage would you say is tolerable as unknown? What would you say?
It really depends. I mean, there's no, you know, that's a very...
What's a lot and what's a little?
We haven't done that analysis, to be very honest. I'll be upfront saying that, hey, you know, for a tenant, this is 5%, 10% versus 70%. To be honest, we haven't done the analysis and say what could be the percentage variable, but that's a good feedback that I'll take and say if there is some, you know, that's a good feedback that we'll take. We'll go back and figure out if there are people seeing unknowns, how can we make sure the data comes through, number one. Number two, what can we do and, you know, provide some guidance or documentation saying that, hey, this seems to be the threshold where everybody is getting an unknown calls. If you're higher than that, maybe something that you need to do. This is a feedback as an insight, something that we could surface for sure. That's a feedback I'll take back. That's a good point.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have something that I can add. So for example, like in Microsoft, I see in the past high unknown. Mostly it's because of the habit of the user habit. That's actually also the reason why it's kind of like hard to tie what is it like a really poor call or not. Because we are having meeting back to back, and then we have a tendency to just slap our laptop and then just go to the next one. And those call or those meeting that you just close the laptop was not ended properly, and you don't know like whether it's because the Wi-Fi or the network or the device, but it's just blah, right? So we see those kind of things, and we actually investigate those and through MSIT and figure out that is one of the main reasons we see high number of unknown in Microsoft. But that's because we investigate. In Microsoft, it's like that because people have that kind of behavior. But maybe like different thing, like in different area, right? So yeah.
Quick question on the PSTN calling. If, for example, you've noticed in about a week or so, the call quality, as you should just say high or poor, is there a way, and you drill down and notice there's something, probably something in the network or something like that, is there a guidelines that you can have to say, well, if you're going to have 20 PSTN call devices, maybe the network should have a bandwidth of this amount, of that amount. Is there anything, suggestion on that? Because
Specifically for the PSTN devices you're talking about?
yes, with the video calls, it's a lot different. So
Right.
PSTNs, yes, for those kind of calls, because if the call quality is bad, you'd like to have some suggestion and say, well, you know, if you're having 10 devices or 4 devices, we recommend this.
Right. Yeah, so that's the bandwidth thing you're talking about. I think, do you look at the session for, I think Cornel and Sione did the network planner session and followed by some of those things. I would suggest look into that. Network planner is one thing which you can use for some of this guidance.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Another thing that you might be able to take a look is the PSTN Nikolai's session on PSTN conferencing, and bring your own trunk.
Bring your own trunk, direct routing is
Yes,
called.
that probably will help eliminate some of your pain, and how you actually set it up. And since you own your own trunk, then you can actually watch carefully the quality and the reliability of your PSTN call.
Thank you.
We added like all those link at the bottom of this slide deck. So it will be available tomorrow. So if you want to check it out.
Hi. First of all, I just want to say thanks for all that work, because it's really, really useful and quite helpful. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
I've got 2 things. One's a piece of feedback and the other's a question. The first one, feedback. So in the call quality, in the analytics, under the advanced tab, it would be really useful if there were some firmer descriptions of each of the fields, because it needs to be English, and especially for explaining that to
Absolutely.
people as well.
Absolutely.
What would also be useful would be scenarios where
Right.
that would apply to, not just the description of the field. I understand why it is that way, but
Right.
you do have to explain that further as well. So
Yeah.
useful. The question, and it was mostly because I was in a session for Teams live events, and I had the question around analytics and quality around live events. Is that something on your radar? Is that
Yep.
coming down the line for you?
Absolutely. So first, your feedback, absolutely taken, and that's already one of the things on our roadmap. Just a matter of when it will show up in the priority list. But I think when we started CA, we just wanted to say, hey, here's all the information, just take it, right? And then I think at some point of time, like every other tool, we need to start rationalizing and say, how much of this is really relevant, right? How much of this is really relevant? That's one part of it. And then second is, it's good. Capture, render, event ratio. I mean, I shouldn't be doing the search myself. It should be in a way where I'm looking at those things and I'm getting insights into that, saying that this is bad, this is good, right? The same way you look at your health report and say, there's a greater than 0.5, my TGL, whatever it is, right? It has to be that clear.
And that's effectively the next step, isn't it? That's your optimization path.
Yes.
So as one of my friends like to say, it's just an observation, not a criticism. I really
Yes.
appreciate
No,
it.
absolutely. And that's one thing that we've taken that feedback seriously, and it's definitely on the backlog. In terms of when that will happen, yeah, I mean, we want to make sure we get the insights first, right? Like, she was asking about, hey, the bunch of calls going wrong, how do we surface that? That would, probably come up slightly higher in the priority. And this is, like you said, it's something that needs to be done, but yet at the same time non-trivial. So we need to make sure we are spending the right this thing. To your second point on live events, yes, we are in the process of building usage for live events, and also once you do the live events, based on the use, one of the things that we're looking at is live events do tend to, you have a CEO's live event Q&A coming up. You want to make sure when that is, and you're not planning an upgrade for your access points that day, right? So we want to provide you that information. We want to give you that intelligence, and yet at the same time, and that could be version 1. And while that is coming through, we want to make sure you get the similar call analytics view for a live event. What was the issue or how many people joined. At the end of the day, a live event becomes an inner meeting, right? So we want to make sure we surface that data as well, right? So these are the 2 things that we're working on.
Right, thank you.
Thank you,
Awesome.
everybody.
Thank you so much.
For staying until the end and even over on the last day of the event. Thank you so much, guys.
Safe travels.
Safe travels. And the slide, look at the notes, because there are some stuff that I might forget to mention. And the details is pretty significant, actually. Thank you. Thank you. Bye. Bye.